I followed my wife on our wedding night, not because I didn't trust her, but because something in her eyes when she looked at me during our vows told me she was carrying a weight I couldn't see. At 11:47 p.m., while our families were still cleaning up the reception hall, she slipped out the side door in her wedding dress, purse clutched tight against her chest. No goodbye, no explanation, just the soft click of the door and the sound of her heels on the pavement fading into the night. I sat in my truck with the headlights off and watched her walk down Riverside Road alone under those flickering streetlights that barely cut through the fog. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. My chest felt hollow. I thought the vows were the beginning. I never imagined she'd walk away the same night. And when I saw where she went, when I saw who opened that door, my heart broke in a way I still can't forget. This is the story of the secret my wife kept from me, from everyone, and why she chose our wedding night to finally face it. Her name is Hannah. My name is Michael. We got married on a Saturday in October in a small Baptist church just outside of Clarksville. It was everything we'd planned. Her mother cried. My brother gave a speech that made everyone laugh. The reception was warm, full of people who loved us, but there was something off, something I couldn't name. Hannah smiled through the whole day, but her smile never reached her eyes. During the first dance, I felt her body stiffen when I whispered that I loved her. She kissed my cheek and said it back, but her voice cracked. I thought maybe it was nerves, maybe it was exhaustion, but when she left that night without a word, I knew it was something deeper, something she'd been hiding long before I ever put a ring on her finger. So I followed her. And what I found out that night changed everything I thought I knew about the woman I married. Hannah Ellis was 29 years old when we got married. She taught second grade at Maplewood Elementary and had this way of making every kid in her class feel like they mattered. She was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of person who remembered your birthday and left little notes in your lunchbox. I'm 34. I work in construction, mostly commercial buildings, and I've lived in Clarksville my whole life. We met at a community barbecue 3 years before the wedding. She was sitting alone on a bench near the playground, watching the kids chase each other, and I asked if she wanted a lemonade. She said yes. We talked for 2 hours. I fell in love with her that day. But there were parts of Hannah I never fully understood. She never talked about her father. Anytime someone asked, she'd say he passed away when she was 14, and then she'd change the subject. Her mother, Linda, was at the wedding, smiling and taking pictures, but she had this sadness in her eyes that I'd seen before. I asked Hannah once if her dad had been sick, or if it was an accident. She looked at me for a long time and then said it was sudden and that she didn't like thinking about it. I didn't push. Everyone has grief they carry differently. But on our wedding day, something happened that I didn't notice until later. During the reception, my cousin Jenny found Hannah in the bathroom crying. Not happy tears, real chest-heaving sobs. Jenny asked if she was okay. Hannah wiped her face, forced a smile, and said she was just overwhelmed. But Jenny told me later that it didn't feel like wedding jitters. It felt like Hannah was mourning something. The reception ended around 10:30. Most people had left. My brother and a few friends were stacking chairs and taking down the decorations in the community hall we'd rented. Hannah was sitting at one of the tables near the back, still in her dress, staring at her phone. I walked over and asked if she was ready to head to the hotel. We were supposed to spend the night there before flying out to the coast for our honeymoon. She looked up at me and nodded, but she didn't move. I kissed the top of her head and told her I'd help finish cleaning up and then we'd go. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that felt like a goodbye. 10 minutes later, I looked up and she was gone. I checked the bathroom. I checked outside. Her purse was gone. Her phone was off. I asked her mom if she knew where Hannah went. Linda just shook her head and said Hannah probably needed some air. But I knew better. I got in my truck and drove slowly down Riverside Road, the only route out of town from the hall. About half a mile down, I saw her. She was walking on the side of the road in her wedding dress, the hem dragging through the gravel, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. I pulled over and killed the engine. I didn't get out. I just watched. She turned onto a side street I'd never been down before. It was one of those streets where the houses are old and small, and half of them look abandoned. She stopped in front of a pale yellow house with peeling paint and a chain-link fence. The porch light was on. She stood there for a minute like she was deciding whether to knock. Then she did. 3 soft taps. The door opened. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall, thin, maybe in his late 50s. His hair was gray and messy. He wore a flannel shirt that looked 2 sizes too big. And when he saw Hannah, he started crying. She stepped inside. The door closed. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't know who that man was, but I'd seen his face before, in a photo on Hannah's mother's mantel, a photo from when Hannah was a little girl. The man in that picture was her father. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. I didn't sleep that night. Hannah came back to the hotel around 1 in the morning. Her eyes were red. Her makeup was smudged. She didn't say anything. She just took off her dress, hung it in the closet, and got into bed. I lay there next to her, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I wanted to ask her where she went. I wanted to ask her who that man was, but I didn't. I was too afraid of what the answer might be. The next morning I tried. I asked her if everything was okay. She said yes. I asked her if she wanted to talk about last night. She looked at me like I'd slapped her and said there was nothing to talk about. I told her I saw her leave. She went pale. She asked me if I followed her. I said yes. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just got very quiet and very still and said she needed some time alone. I left the hotel room and sat in the parking lot for an hour. I called her sister, Amy. Amy and Hannah had always been close. If anyone knew what was going on, it was her. But when I told her what happened, she got defensive. She said Hannah had her reasons and that I needed to trust her. I asked what reasons. She said it wasn't her story to tell. So I went back to that house. It was late afternoon. The same man answered the door. Up close, he looked worse. His skin was gray. His hands shook. He asked who I was. I told him I was Hannah's husband. He stared at me for a long time. Then he said he was sorry. I asked him why he was sorry. He said because Hannah had been carrying this alone for too long and he was the reason why. I asked him who he was. He said his name was David. David Ellis, Hannah's father. The father she told everyone was dead. David invited me inside. The house smelled like old coffee and cigarettes. There was a hospital bed in the living room. Pill bottles lined the kitchen counter. He offered me water. I didn't take it. I asked him why Hannah told everyone he was dead. He sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. He said because in a lot of ways, he was. David told me he'd been an alcoholic for most of Hannah's childhood. He said he lost his job when she was 12. He started drinking more. He got angry. He said things he didn't mean. He did things he didn't mean. One night when Hannah was 14, he got arrested for driving drunk and crashing into a parked car. Linda filed for divorce while he was in jail. When he got out, she told him he wasn't allowed to see Hannah or Amy anymore. He said he didn't fight it. He said he knew they were better off without him. For 15 years he stayed away. He lived in that house alone, working odd jobs, trying to get sober. He said he wrote letters to Hannah every year on her birthday, but never sent them. Then, about 8 months ago, he got sick. Lung cancer, stage 4. He didn't have insurance. He didn't have money. He called Linda and told her. Linda didn't tell Hannah at first, but Hannah found out. Amy let it slip during a phone call. Hannah showed up at his door 2 weeks later. David said she didn't hug him. She didn't cry. She just asked him how bad it was. He told her the doctors gave him 6 months, maybe less. She asked him if he had anyone taking care of him. He said no, so she started coming by, once a week at first, then twice a week. She paid for his medication out of her own paycheck. She brought him groceries. She sat with him when the pain got too bad for him to sleep. She never told Michael. She never told anyone except Amy. Because she was ashamed. Ashamed that after everything he'd done, she still couldn't let him die alone. I went back to the hotel and found Hannah sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. I sat down next to her. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then I asked her why she didn't tell me. She said because she didn't know how. She said she spent her whole life trying to forget what her father did to her mother, to their family. She said she built a life where he didn't exist, and then he got sick, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. She said every time she visited him, she felt like she was betraying herself, betraying her mother, betraying me, but she couldn't stop, because despite everything, he was still her father. And she didn't want him to die thinking no one cared. I asked her why she went to see him on our wedding night. She said because he asked her to. He told her he didn't have much time left, and he wanted to see her one more time before she started her new life. He wanted to tell her he was proud of her, that he was sorry, that he hoped she could be happy even if he never got the chance to be part of it. She said she almost didn't go, but then she thought about what it would feel like to wake up one day and find out he was gone and she never said goodbye. So she went. I told her I wished she'd told me sooner. She said she was afraid I'd think less of her, that I'd think she was weak for forgiving someone who hurt her so much. I told her that loving someone even when they don't deserve it isn't weakness. It's the hardest kind of strength there is. She cried. I held her. And for the first time since the wedding, she let herself fall apart. 3 days later, I asked Hannah if I could meet him again. Really meet him. Not as a stranger, but as her husband. She hesitated, but she said yes. We drove to the house together. David was in bed. He looked worse than he did the first time I saw him. His breathing was shallow, his skin was pale, but when he saw Hannah, he smiled. I sat in a chair next to the bed. Hannah held his hand. I told him my name. I told him I loved his daughter. I told him I was sorry for what he was going through. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said he didn't deserve her. He said he didn't deserve my kindness either. But he was grateful. He asked me to take care of her. I promised I would. He asked Hannah if she was happy. She said yes. He said that was all he ever wanted. He said he spent so many years destroying everything good in his life, and he was glad she found a way to build something better. He told her he was proud of her, that he loved her, that he was sorry for every moment he stole from her childhood. Hannah told him she forgave him. A week later, David passed away in his sleep. Hannah and I were there. So was her mother. Linda held his hand and cried. It was the first time she'd seen him in 15 years. At the funeral, there were only 6 people, me, Hannah, Linda, Amy, David's neighbor, and a pastor who didn't know him but agreed to speak anyway. Hannah read a letter she'd written. She said her father wasn't a perfect man, that he made mistakes that hurt people she loved, but in the end, he tried, and sometimes trying is all we can do. It's been 6 months since David died. Hannah still visits his grave every Sunday. She brings flowers. Sometimes she talks to him. Sometimes she just sits there. I go with her when she wants company. I stay in the car when she doesn't. Our honeymoon got postponed. We took it last month. We went to the coast like we planned. We walked on the beach. We watched the sunset. We talked about the future, about kids, about the life we're building together. And we talked about her father, about forgiveness, about how the people we love don't have to be perfect for us to grieve them. Hannah told me she's glad she went to see him that night. She said if she hadn't, she would have spent the rest of her life wondering what he wanted to say. She said some secrets aren't meant to deceive. They're scars we never learned how to show. I think about that a lot. About the things we hide from the people who love us because we're afraid of being judged. About how sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let someone see the parts of us we're ashamed of. Hannah did that, and it didn't break us. It made us stronger. So if you're carrying something heavy, something you're afraid to share, I hope you find the courage to let it out. because the people who really love you won't walk away. They'll sit with you in the dark until you're ready to step into the light. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have followed her? Would you have forgiven her for keeping that secret? Let me know in the comments. And if this story touched you, stay tuned because the next one will break your heart even more. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching.